All right. Well, we are going to find out, or we're going to try to find out, why Luke chapter 4 holds a key to understanding what we see around us today. Let's uh, let's just read it together. We're going to Luke chapter 4, verse start with 5. And the devil took Jesus up and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment in time, and said to him, To you I will give all this authority and their glory, for it has been delivered to me, and I give it to whom I will. If you then will worship me, it can all be yours. Now we know Jesus said, You can go to hell. That's what he said. He said, No, uh, I'm not going to worship you. But we have to understand that Jesus was not the first and the last person that the accuser, Satan, offered this contract with. Ever since, um, well, let me take that back. Let me say this. In Deuteronomy 32, we'll just go to that right quick. Deuteronomy chapter 32, 32. Moses is recounting some history here, and he wants people to remember 32, verse 7. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he'll show you. Ask your elders, and they'll tell you. When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. But the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob, his allotted heritage. I think we talked about this in video number 1. A lot of versions have uh, the wrong translation in verse 8. Verse 7, 8, and 9 are referring back to the Tower of Babel, when God basically disinherited all people at the Tower of Babel because they wanted to worship their own God. So he said, okay, you can worship whoever you want. And remember, at the Tower of Babel, he had not called Abraham yet. So in verse 8, it cannot mean according to the sons of Israel. It has to mean according to the number of the sons of God. And the sons of God are fallen angels in this case. We know that because they put themselves out there to be worshiped by mankind. Elect angels, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel, they never want to be worshiped. As a matter of fact, when some of the people, John or maybe some others, if whenever they bow down to worship them, they say, the angel says, "Stop doing that. I am a fellow servant, or something like that." They don't want to be worshipped. Fallen angels, on the other hand, they want to be worshipped. They are the sons of God in 32, verse 8. So at the Tower of Babel, God disinherited the angels, not the angels, the nations. And it's Genesis chapter 11. And then Genesis chapter 12 happens, and he calls Abraham. So in that time frame, the fallen angels were basically the president of each country. Now, so if you have never heard that before, it's hard to understand that, but it says right here, he divided mankind up and basically said, if you want to go worship this guy, then you just go after it. I will try to redeem the people. I will try to redeem the nations and bring them back to me. And I will use somebody called Abraham and his children and his seed, singular, that would be Jesus, to try to redeem mankind for me. But as we can tell in Colossians chapter 1, let's start with well, I know it's in Colossians. Okay, we're going to have to take a little break here. Colossians 2:15. I am mistaken. 2:15. So the fallen angels were the head of every country before Jesus arrived. And we see in Colossians 2:15 where it says he disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in him. So the rulers and authorities that were in charge before Jesus, it says right here, he basically conquered them because he was the perfect sacrifice that God could accept. And by that sacrifice, he bought people back from death. So now these rulers and authorities are not in charge anymore. So what is Satan to do? How is he going to rule? How is he going to foil God's plan? And all he has to do is find one imperfection in God, and he wins. Satan says he's going to rise to the sides of the north. He's going to rule above the host of heaven. He's going to be like God. He wants to be worshiped like God. So God has given him freedom to try to bring that about. So he has to not make people, but he lies, he cheats, he steals, he coerces people by telling them lies to push society through culture to bring them under his control. Now, how does he do that? Well, we already saw how he did that. Luke chapter 4. If you worship me, I will give you what you see. So, anybody think there's any Satan worshipers in Hollywood? That's a big check. How about, are there any Satan worshipers in government. Oh, that's a big check. Maybe they don't worship Satan. Maybe they're negative to God, and they're just positive to Lucifer, because worshiping Satan is not the same thing as worshiping Lucifer. You'll end up in the same place, which is outside the presence of God. But people worship Satan, and Satan has put them in positions of power all over the world, in government, in Hollywood, in your school system, any place of power where he can move society through culture is people who have rejected God. Um, and not just rejected God, rejected Jesus as God. And what do they want to do? They want to do things their own way. They want to do things in the face of God. I think Psalm 73, a Psalm of Asaph. For I was envious of the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For they have no pangs until death. Their bodies are fat and sleek. They are not in trouble as others are. They are not stricken like the rest of mankind. Therefore pride is their necklace. Violence covers them as a garment. Their eyes swell out through fatness. Their hearts overflow with follies. They scoff and speak with malice. Loftily they threaten oppression. They set their mouths against the heavens, and their tongue struts through the earth. Therefore this people turn back to them. Therefore his people turn back to them and find no fault in them. And they say, how can God know? Is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the wicked. Always at ease, they increase in riches. These people sound like the people who are following themselves as God. Possibly they worship Satan. Possibly they sacrifice to Satan. You know, Satan requires a blood sacrifice. The Father required Jesus to hang on a tree. He required a death, a spiritual death and a physical death. And as Satan is a copycat, he wants to be worshiped as God, so he just copies God. People sacrifice to Satan all the time. It's just in our mind, we have a hard time understanding that, or we just say, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. Well, do you know what a conspiracy theory is? It's probably a truth that your personal worldview has no place for, so it's automatically set aside as a conspiracy theory, when in actuality it's probably true. And this kind of gets me to my point. If this is Satan's playground, and if there are people that worship him, that he has put in places of power for the purpose of moving society, moving people, moving culture towards him and away from God, towards darkness and away from light, towards confusion, towards chaos and away from peace. Tell me, why should we believe anything government says? Why should we believe anything the news says? Why should we believe anything, maybe perhaps even history says? History is written by the winner. I don't even know how much is true that's written on our history books. The question is not, well, why would somebody lie? That's not the question. The question is, why would they tell the truth? If we imagine, um, you know, on our level, on my level, I have influencers above me that I get information from. They are influenced by their influencers. Those people are influenced by their influencers. So it's like a multi-layer foundation for information. Somebody looks to somebody else. That person looks to somebody else. Let's imagine there's 33 layers of information. Now the bottom layer is the biggest layer. Of course, in a pyramid, that would be correct. And their influencers don't have to be as many as them. It can be a little bit less. And then their influencers are a smaller amount. And then their influencer ever smaller. And pretty soon you have a pyramid. And the top of the pyramid, since this is Satan's domain, since this is Satan's playground, and since God has given him almost a free ride is to do anything he wants, almost. I mean, when there's child trafficking, when there's organ harvesting, when there's abuse of people who are helpless, when there's theft via taxation, what are we to, uh, how else can we understand it by saying God is allowing him to do this to prove his case? So, at the very top of this pyramid is Satan. He is the all seeing eye. He is the head of the beast system that's coming right around the corner. God can rule the world through and allow people to have volition. Satan cannot allow people to have volition. Everything will be tracked in the beast system, and that is right around the corner. And that's not the subject of this video. But Satan is the head of the pyramid. He is the all-seeing eye. He dispenses his set of information to whoever, people that worship him, other fallen angels that carry out what he wants to carry out, witches. Hollywood's full of witches. Celebrities are witches. Professional ball players have witches as for girlfriends and wives. Uh, but Satan puts out truth and lies mixed together for the purpose of confusion. How do you think he convinced Eve? He took what God said, added it to it, and put it back in her mind. Simple as that. Over time, Eve believed that 2 plus 2 was not 4, it was actually 4.5, so to speak. So, if Satan is putting out lies and chaos and confusion for the purpose of moving culture, moving society towards him, it's for the purpose of covering up the truth, covering up the light wherever it is, then you can't believe what NASA says. You can't believe what government says. You can't believe a lot of things because the people who put that out have a purpose of covering the truth up, covering God up. You know, the world is held together by the word of his power, not the world is held together. The world is held together by E equals MC squared. No, it doesn't say that. The world is held together by the four laws of thermodynamics. No, the world is held together by the word of his power. God doesn't need no stinking equation, but mankind has to come in here and dream up crap and cover up who God is. Why don't you, like I did, look up, Google this or however you want to look it up, Isaac Newton and the occult, and you'll realize Isaac Newton was an occultist. Now, to me, that kind of mitigates every scientific discovery he made. But there's occultists all through science. There's occultists all through NASA and the beginnings of JBL or JPL. Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, they were occultists, worshiped Satan. I don't believe anything they said scientifically. They have no impetus for telling the truth. And that's what I'm hopefully getting across, is that we should not believe people that are in charge in the government have any reason to tell the truth. They have the reason to do just the opposite. So that's kind of what this video has been about, is seeing what's going on around us is a lie. None of the wars we've had have been organic. They've all been pushed and pushed by somebody and something. They have not been organic. The war that's going on right now with Russia and Ukraine, uh, I I don't even know if we're getting the truth out of the news as to what's going on. It's a crying shame, and people are asleep. We are kept fat, dumb, and happy while the world is fixing to be flushed down the toilet. So please think about this video. You don't have to agree with it. Just don't say no to it. Think about it. If Satan is in charge and he puts his cronies in charge, the only thing they want to do is get people to believe them and cover the truth up. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching.